What's up, everybody, and welcome to the latest edition of the Falcons in Focus podcast presented by Ticketmaster. I'm Scott Bair. That's Tori McElhaney. As always, the man of the hour, Falcons rookie cornerback Clark Phillips III. We're going to get into Clark Phillips Sr. at some point here, too.
Yeah.
Clark Phillips III is joining us here. So stoked to have you. And before we get into some pretty fun stories from your background, let me remind you all that as the official ticket marketplace of the Falcons and the NFL, Ticketmaster has a wide selection of tickets available for every game. Whether you're cheering on the Falcons at home or away, Ticketmaster has you covered. Download the Ticketmaster app or find tickets today at Ticketmaster.com/Falcons. That's Ticketmaster.com/Falcons. Before you were a Falcon, Clark, let's go back before you were even a football player, maybe. There's a story that your dad likes to tell. You were 3. You were playing soccer, but maybe mentally you thought that you were playing football.
Yeah.
Tell us what happened at that moment. You're playing a generally speaking non-contact sport.
I don't know. I've seen male soccer players do some
get-
heavy flopping.
Can
so
get aggressive.
It can get aggressive.
Yeah, so it starts with this. Like, I grew up watching, even at that age, like, all I did was watch my uncle play. And so he was at Idaho State, I want to say, and then he went to Portland State. He was a running back, so that's all I knew. So even though my first sport was soccer, all I was watching on TV and all I was watching in the stands, we would travel down to his games, like, just to support. And so that's all I knew. And so all I knew was tackle somebody, go hit somebody and all this stuff. And so, my first ever, sport, I remember, I never forget, we were in a gym, and because we were so small, we were playing soccer in the gym, 3 or whatever. And I think it was the first play. As soon as we got started, I went and tackled a kid. I went and tackled him. And, of course, as a kid, you look for the reaction of everybody else. And everybody's like, oh, and
Yeah, it's like, how'd I do, Dad?
yeah, and so I'm like super nervous. I'm like, oh no, I did something wrong. Like, people aren't reacting right now. I mean, from what I heard my parents say, they said I started crying, and I was like, oh snap! Like, I thought like I was in trouble and everything. Everyone's like, no, you're not in trouble. Like, you good. You just can't tackle.
Right.
Right.
Wrong
And so
sport.
From then on, we knew that he needs to be in football. He likes to tackle.
I mean, the one question that if your dad were here that I would want to ask is, how was his form on the first time? Did he lead with like could he see what he was hitting?
Yeah,
Did he
Did he
right?
keep his head up?
Yeah, right. All those important things.
Right.
Something
so
tells
great.
me that 3-year-old who got, you don't always remember everything from back then. Something tells me that there's a 3-year-old out there who was on the other end of this tackle who definitely still remembers it.
Oh yeah,
No
he
doubt.
may have switched sports after that. Like, did I sign up for the right thing?
Right, yeah.
Is
It's
this really
like,
soccer?
Are we all sure that this is the sport that we're playing?
Yeah.
Do you, I know this has now been almost 20 years since then, but also happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
For those listening. Clark.
That's right.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Clark turned 22.
Yeah,
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
he's in his Taylor Swift era.
Hey.
But anywho, I know we're 20 years removed from your days of playing
That
soccer.
sounds crazy. I want to stay this age. I don't want to
know.
get any
Yeah.
older.
Yeah,
that sounds
no,
crazy.
you
As
don't
someone
want
who's
to.
older, don't.
Yeah.
Just freeze yourself.
Don't do
I don't
it.
know if I like the way that one sounds.
But did you ever pick up soccer like later in life, or was that kind of like as soon as you latched onto football at age 4, 5, 6, you never looked back?
It was. I think I might have tried to do it again, maybe 2-3 years later, but it wasn't for a full season. I'm pretty sure it was football from then on. Like, if you can ask my dad, but my dad knows. Yeah, it was football from then on because I remember it was flag football. And as soon as I could play tackle, because we tried to play up, my dad was trying to get me in tackle football as soon as possible. I would have been out there a toddler if it was up to him. Well, barely can walk, but got on pads, So it was one of those things where, like, I knew I wanted to play it, and the family knew too, because it was one of those, like, that's all we do. So.
Do you? So one thing that we found out when we were going through like research and everything is that obviously faith is really important to you and your family, and I felt like everything that we read about you was the title of every article was like faith, family, and football. But what we found really interesting is your grandfather founded the church that your dad now pastors. I am also a like church kid from the South. Like which I know you're from California, but like church kid.
Oh yeah, PK kid.
Universal like experiences. For me, my grandfather was also a pastor of a church, and I remember growing up in church. And when you're growing up in church to the extent of like your family's involved in ministry, you honestly are there more than you're anywhere else.
You like live
Oh
there.
yeah.
You live there. So for you, my question was, with you and your siblings, what's the worst trouble that y'all ever got in at church?
Well, I'll say being the oldest, I was always kind of in that leadership role, and I think that's probably why I'm the way I am today. I bring that up because I led us in the good things and in the bad things, and some of that was in church. And me and my brother were definitely both jokesters. He was more the quiet one, the timid guy, but when we get together, we were a bad situation. And so I'll tell you this. I remember we would do these 3:30 services, so we'd have a second service probably every few Sundays or something. And depending on where it was at, we'd either go to another church and basically support, or we'd go, to our church, our home church, and my dad would bring in a guest pastor or something. But I remember a few instances where me and my brother were, real rowdy in the back, and we knew as kids, you kind of know where your parents is going to be at those church services. So I knew that my pops was going to be in the pulpit. My mom was going to be sitting with the ladies or sitting, somewhere else or sitting in the front. And so me and my brother knew, all the kids at the other services and everything. And so we knew when we could act up, and we knew like sometimes, okay, this is gonna be one where we having a good time. We're gonna make some jokes back here. We're gonna go get the cornbread and everything, because the 3:30 service, the food is always the best. Like we knew the churches that had the best food. Like, oh yeah, we gotta go. We gotta make sure that we go back there a little early. May have to do that bathroom trip, at the end of service to make sure that you get back there. And so
you guys have done your homework.
Yeah, no, like because like you said, growing up in church, like from a young age, you get those little traditions and things. You kind of get them down packed, and you kind of know what to expect and what to do. I'm trying to think of a specific incident.
Did your dad have a look from the pulpit? Like if he could hear y'all and he looked and you're like,
that's a death stare. That's a death stare.
Right. Yeah.
But maybe everybody else doesn't realize it, but you and your brother know.
Yeah.
It's true.
Or it was really, I'll tell you, it was really my mom. So my
really?
mom. Like, if she seen us, she would just kind of give us this, look, and you would see, her teeth kind of clenched together and her mouth goes, and she look, and we just know, okay, dang, she about to tell Dad, and we in trouble when we get home. And me and my brother look at each other, we like, oh, man, we about to be in trouble. This is not going to go good. Or maybe we could do something. Maybe we could do the dishes or something when we get back in the good graces, So, but it was definitely that look that my dad only had probably caught me once or twice goofing off, because I usually was good at having a straight face. Like, if I'm making jokes, I make Bryce laugh, my little brother. And I'm like this.
Like, it's him.
I'm sitting, I'm like, I don't know what he's doing, But
now you and Bryce, y'all are 14 months
14 months apart.
Yeah, so y'all are basically, and y'all look alike too, because y'all are like twins, essentially. But when y'all were growing up, I also come from siblings, and we're not as close in age, but what was it like growing up with him and kind of always having that buddy around in moments where your parents are busy, but you've got someone who's kind of your guy?
It was special, and I guess I wouldn't say that early on we took it for granted, but we always was fighting and competing. The first 10 years, and we would compete so bad, and I never wanted to lose. And I'll say this on air, I never lost. And so
Bryce is watching this
yeah,
come on, bro.
And so, but it really instilled that in him. He didn't like to lose. And I realized that at a young age, I can't let this. And so as soon as he got taller than me, I'm going to skip to that. It became an issue. Because
all of a sudden,
now he thought
his
chest was out a little bit now, but we just always compete. And because we're 14 months apart, for me, I developed a little bit earlier. So, not in height, but but I developed. But I was really explosive. I was really fast at a young age, and he was a late bloomer, and so it was always a competition for me. But it was really I'm always winning. So I was there is no rivalry.
Right.
It came a point though of 12, 13, 14 when we both kind of. I remember he hit puberty, walking around man, I'm big now too. You go get the dishes. You go get the dishes, and so it became one of those things. But because, and I was transitioning to football, because we both played corner. That was when we realized dang, we can both go to the NFL. We can both be the best at our position. And we're able to coach each other up. We're able to play receiver against each other. I go catch a couple of balls on him. He won't do the same, but now we go back and forth, and it's fun because now he's committed to San Diego State.
Right.
I got to shout him out today. As of today, he just signed.
Yeah, for those that are listening, we're recording this on National Signing Day.
Yeah.
Right.
And that was the first thing that I saw when I was doing the research for this podcast. I was like, yo, Bryce is going to San Diego State. Like, I mean, what's that kind of been like, you watching that process from afar, you know, having your own recruiting story, but kind of seeing your brother kind of going through different things as
because his journey has been different.
Way different.
Definitely.
And that's what I always tell people. It's like his journey was way more encouraging to me than he ever know, just because I feel like I was a kid, like I said, I developed early. I got a lot of offers. I had probably every offer in the book, and I say that with the most humble attitude because I worked for it and all of that stuff, and I ended up getting it, and I was able to sign early. His story, you know, he ended up having to go to JUCO route. He didn't have as many opportunities right out of high school, and so he went the JUCO route, which we all know that can be tough. A lot of guys get stuck at the JUCO, don't end up transitioning to the, you know, big-time Power 5, even though that's their plan. And he said, I'm going to do 1 year, and I'm going to get out. That's what he did. He ended up going to TSU, and he ended up, you know, making plays, having great film. He did 2 years, and now he's having an opportunity to go to San Diego State, you know. And so all the credit to him, because a lot of guys, you know, with the things that he's been through and the things that he's seen and kind of things that he's kind of struggled through, it's definitely been a process.
And you know what I think is cool is like how much you're enjoying his success. I'm sure it was the exact same way, but
yeah.
I mean, we're sitting here talking to you, NFL quarterback with starts under his belt as a rookie, and you're as jacked about your brother signing with San Diego State as anything. I think it goes back to what Tori's talking about, right? This bond that you guys have had for so long that, I mean, especially you play the same position, you can speak that language, right? To have
we
that.
took it for granted, but now even more so. Sorry to cut you off. Like even more so now, I understand. We understand each other on a different level. Off the field, on the field, it's not like I'm playing D-line and he's playing quarterback. It's like, even if that was the case, we're both playing the same sport, but we play the exact same position. So it's like it's a level of like, you know, understanding and love for it that we both probably can't even put into words, because it's like, I understand what you're going through. He give up a play, I'm like, man, what was you thinking there, you know? And, shoot, I saw this. All week we worked this, and, you know, same thing for me. He like, hey, man, what happened on this? You need to make that tackle. He on my butt. And so it's like it's a consistent, like, learning, coaching each other up with the competitive spirit, the same spirit that we had at 5, 6, 7, 13, 14, now it's more so poured into like, hey, man, like, what's up? Like, it's like, hey, what we doing right here, you know? I ain't never seen you do this, Clark. CP, he called me, I ain't never seen you do this, CP. What's up, man? You all right? Like, and but it's like, it's
somebody who can cut
what's
through
going on?
everything too, right?
And know you, you know, and know you. And that's what's so special about it. And like, and now we both, every time we laugh about it, we like, man, what was up with us when we was young? Like, why were we always fight? I'm like, I don't know, man, hormones, emotions, I don't know, like all of that young stuff. But I'm like, now we just, every time we together, we're literally best friends now. We probably talk every 2-3 hours. Like, every time I get a chance, he the first dude I call. Now my girl is him. Like, hey, anything going on is him. And so it's, now I'm so grateful. I'm grateful my parents did it back to back, you know, had us back, because I'm like, I wouldn't have wanted 3 years apart, 4 years apart. 14 months was perfect.
That's so great. And the fact that y'all talk so much is really cool, too, because I talk to my sister all the time as well. Like, we have a Snapchat streak that's stupid long.
500.
It's embarrassing. I won't even say it's over 2,000 days straight. And
that's
I'm like,
crazy.
I know. I kind of want an award, Snapchat.
That's beautiful.
But for you, do you remember, like, a time that y'all really got mad at each other? Like, what was the, like, biggest fight that y'all ever got in?
Ooh, I remember me and my brother were at my grandparents' house. And so we would often, so my parents were like, my dad used to travel a lot because he was in healthcare, and like he would have to travel a lot. And I just remember my mom would have to, she would work like later shifts and stuff. And so they would drop us off for like 2-3 days at a time sometimes at my grandma's house. And I remember me and my brother, like, we loved it because we get to stay up. We didn't have to go to sleep. There was no bedtime at grandma's. We get as much food, snacks. Grandpa would make his store runs around the corner. We're going to get every snack in the sheet, you know. So, like, it came with so much fun. But I remember we would always compete, like I said, in everything. And my grandpa had, from when my uncle was living in there, he had this older game system. I don't even know what it was, but it had a game called True Crime and a few other games. And I remember we were competing. I think I was beating him in a game or something, and he ended up throwing the controller or something. And my parents were coming in, I think, 30, 40 minutes later. This is the last day of our little, you know, staycation at grandparents' house. And they were, my dad's coming in, and I remember he had on a suit and everything. I never forget. And for some reason, we ended up outside tussling and throwing each other around. And my dad, he ends up pulling up, and he thinks that, like, we're, like, full-on throwing punches and everything. And I remember he snapped. Like, I never felt so weak in my child, like, but strong. Like, because I felt like at 13, 14, like, I'm a man, I'm strong. And we were around that age, and I remember my dad snagging us both up with one hand and looking at us both and saying, if I ever catch you both punching each other, you guys this might be your last day.
Yeah.
And I was like, and we were just both looking stunned, like,
Fear
and
God
so,
in it.
but it was a beautiful thing because we both learned, like, brothers, that's not what we do.
Right, yeah.
And so even though we were competitive, even though, we got into it, all that stuff, I'll tell you what, never again did we ever, like, take it there. We may have put hands on each other, may have messed around, but we never, ever, let it get to the point where we're, like, throwing each other around or doing nothing crazy like that. It was like, okay, if it got there, now we both just leaving. All right, man, I'm done playing the game. And I remember being like, dang, Pops is really strong. And I remember me and Bryce really talking about it because growing up and especially playing football and playing a sport with a lot of, masculinity and, you're taught I'm strong and you knocked another man down and all of that stuff. You kind of wonder as a kid, every man goes through it. Like in Lion King, every man goes through it. And so, like, I wonder if I could take Pops. I wonder if, like, it's a thought that you don't really speak out loud, but I wonder if, and so that kind of settled that with me and my brother, like, nah, there's no way. There's no way. Pops just snatched us both up.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe the story's gotten crazier, but I want to say both of our feet were up. Like, and I'm 13, 14, and I'm like, my dad is very strong, but
I would say he's I saw his
jacked.
Instagram profile. He's jacked.
oh, nah, he's
even now.
Yeah, like, and he now, I'll tell you now, like, he's on a journey, like, he's down, so, and he's comfortable with me sharing this because it's been a crazy journey. Like, he gained weight, was up to like 230 or something, and he's 2 inches shorter than me. Now he's 192.
Wow.
He said that his goal is to be looking like me and my brother, a high performance D1 professional athlete. Like, and so now I'm like, dang. And like, I knew that he could do that because my dad's similar to me. That's where I get it from. He can be very extreme. Like, and that's what's gotten him where he is in, in his profession as a healthcare, executive. But for me, I'm like, dang, it still is crazy to see. I'm like, dang, Pop's got abs now because we grew up and we always knew he was super strong,
right?
Because he power lifted, he bodybuilded, and he did all that stuff. But never did I ever think, now I'm like, wow, okay. I'm like, I need to make sure I'm looking all the way right. And tight
right.
I'm like, Pops is battling. I'm like,
Well, it's funny because I was gonna ask, like, if y'all work out together, like you, your brother, and your dad.
My dad's really like the only person that really trains me and my brother, like, consistently, like, and it's gonna stay that way, because he's gotten us here and he's been the one that stayed on us. And then the biggest thing too, I tell people, is that he knows us best.
Right.
Like, he knows when something's off with the body because he's been the one that's done the strength training. He's taken us to, if he couldn't do it, it was okay, bet I'm gonna get you guys in the hands of somebody that can, coach you guys up for DB. Because for him, he didn't start playing football till senior year of high school.
Interesting.
Only because he was the fastest in the everyone's like, why don't you? He's one of those kids that was super strong, super fast. He was doing like 4 plates in high school on the bench.
Whew.
Just at 165 pounds.
Yeah.
And so it was like, what are you doing? We need you to play running back. Back then, it was the run. They ran the ball. And so he was like, we need you to play running back. And he was at Milliken, and they're like, all right. And he was like, all right, I'll go play. Whatever.
Like, sure.
And he ended up getting some scholarship offers, but he ended up staying back home. My grandmother, rest in peace, was battling cancer, so he had to stay. But he ended up. I was like, dang, that's crazy. Like, you could have really went, off of 1 year.
It's. We're already 15 minutes into this podcast. Time flies when you're having fun.
For real.
But I think it's interesting. But when you get drafted, there's these kind of like narratives that kind of, I don't know if one draft analyst says it, they all say it, right? But like one of the one of the narratives was this, like, Clark Phillips' confidence is sky high. Like, he has this crazy self-belief. Okay, and everybody just sort of assumes that's only football related. But like, listen to the conversation that we're having right now.
Right, yeah.
That's where the confidence comes from. It comes from having this support system, having generations of people behind you, seeing sacrifice from your parents. That's where the confidence comes from. I mean, you're good at football. Right? But it's rooted somewhere deeper than that.
Oh, yeah, way deeper. And I'm glad you mentioned that because my dad, and he would always say when we were younger, but we didn't understand it, of course, until we got up out the house. Like, his biggest thing was, I want to teach you guys work ethic. I'm not going to give you guys anything. I'm not going to ever just hand feed or spoon feed you. I want to give you guys work ethic, and then you guys will go a long way. And so now I understand exactly what he was saying. He taught us how to work, how to train, how to go through loss, how to go through things, and we never once seen a bad eye. He went through so much loss and so many things, like in his childhood, even in our childhood, so many things. His mother, his brother, like all type of stuff that I'm like, now looking back, I'm like, my dad, we used to think my dad was a robot. Just the way that he was able to handle things and just, okay, dang, that happened. Now what we gonna do? That happened. Dang. We didn't even know, like, there's so many stories I could get into. Like, I'll bring up one and I'll be done. He ends up losing his job. We're about 12, 13, me and my brother. We had no idea. Like, when he comes in or whatever, and just a regular day. I didn't find out till I'm out of the house that he's doing Uber, doing Lyft, just to make sure. Like, I'm like, the level of humility to go and do Uber and do Lyft after making, 150, 200,000, being a healthcare executive, for some time, and to be able to just turn around and say, I need to make this happen. I need to figure out a way to pay the bills. I'm not gonna make, my mom go and work two jobs, or I'm gonna go do Uber, do Lyft, and he did other things on the side to make sure that he could bring the bread in. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
But we had no idea. We had no idea.
I had no idea.
Didn't come in, throwing anything. Didn't come in like, y'all need to go work,
Didn't have
we're
like
teenagers.
A party.
Yeah. We're teenagers.
Right. And because he wanted y'all to focus on what you're doing.
Yeah, I want
which
you
is
guys
trying to achieve this
your goal is to go
that
to the
you had
NFL. Yeah.
A lane to get
allow
to.
me and my brother continue to do us in school, continue to work. Never once, but that's one of those things that, like, I look back and I'm like, just forever grateful, because a lot of people, and it wouldn't have been wrong for them to say, okay, the kids got to get to work a little bit now.
Yeah.
Now they need to go get a job at Taco Bell, do something, because we're struggling. Allowed us to kind of stay in our lane, be kids, and continue to do our stuff. And I'm like, just looking back, I'm like, that's one that can get me emotional. Like, Pops was being a man. That's a man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Taking care of everybody.
Right.
Yeah. Man.
What else? I could talk for an hour. What else do you want to hit?
Oh gosh, I have so many things.
There's so many things.
That I want to hit, but you talk about like hard decisions, and I feel like when a lot of people know the story of you flipping from Ohio State to Utah before going to college. I mean,
that's been written about a lot.
That has been written about a lot. That is a story that has been told. You look up Clark Phillips III on Google. That's story number 1,
huge.
2, and 3.
Yeah.
But my question isn't necessarily about like that, and for you to tell everybody about that. What's something that in that process gets lost in the stories that are retold about you? And what is something about that moment in your life that maybe people don't know?
I'll say this, because a lot of kids can get lost in the hype. All of that stuff. You start to get offers and nobody can tell you anything, and you forget that you can only choose one. I remember my dad's biggest thing to me, and even my brother, even though he wasn't in the process, he always told him to learn from my process so you don't make the same mistakes. And, like, for me, my dad used to always say, like, hey, man, you can only pick one, and then none of this stuff matters as soon as you step foot on campus. The same thing, of course, when you get drafted, and that's why it was directly applicable. I was able to look at that process and kind of match it up to this. But now, like, for me, that's kind of the biggest thing for me, was making sure that, like, okay, even though I'm highly touted, I was highly recruited, all this stuff, none of that stuff mattered, like, when I committed. Like, because you can get caught up in, oh, man, I got Nick Saban wants me, Ryan Day, all of these guys that are at big-time programs. And then, I chose Utah, and I was, like, for me, that was the biggest thing for me. Like, I felt like I'm going to go to a program that's, big enough, and it wasn't about the hype. It was all about, okay, what can they do to develop me, and how can I go somewhere that's going to win, And so that's what came down to my decision. And then when I look back at it, I'm like, I'm so grateful that I was okay with, and it's crazy because for me, it didn't feel like going against the grain. Like, but for a lot of people, it was like, what are you doing? You're going to Utah? Like, you got all these offers, like, oh, and people assume, like, oh, man, maybe he didn't get accepted. No, I just chose Utah. Like, but a lot of people may have gone with another higher tier program if it wasn't Ohio State, just to kind of, okay, if I'm not going here, I'm going there. And so, but for me, I'm grateful for my dad kind of having that attitude too, and kind of instilling that in me and my brother. Don't be afraid to do your own thing. Like, you don't have to try to follow the masses or follow the crowd just because you feel like that's the cool thing to do. Right. If you feel solid about this, and I felt solid about the coaches, I felt solid about what they were telling me, felt solid about what the plan was for me, and that was the program that I chose. And look at it, and I'm like, the rest was history.
Yeah, consensus All-American, defensive player of the year,
ended up working
NFL
out.
Draft pick.
Yeah, so to kind of
Rose Bowl, right?
Yeah. No, there are some things to kind of like wrap this thing up, because we know you have to go to another meeting. But I'm going to play a little bit of true or false with you. Okay. I have a couple stories that I need you to tell me if they're true or false. So first one. True or false that you didn't have a winter coat because you're from California when you first went to Utah, and you would double up on hoodies in order to stay warm?
That's true. And my mom gave me crap for it for a long time.
Really?
Because they tried to stuff one in my luggage, like, oh, no, you're going to take this. And I'm like, no, Mom, I'm good. I'm okay. Oh, I struggled the first few months. I struggled. Walking to classes, too. I didn't have a car. I'm walking in my Vans because I thought I was so cool. And I was going to look fly in school. I was going to look cool. I'm going to all my classes. This is before COVID. And I remember thinking, this is the worst decision because by the time the snow dries or by the time the snow's off your feet, it's completely damped in your shoe.
Yeah.
It was the worst feeling ever. I'm like, oh, this is bad. And then I got to walk back in it. I'm like, oh, no.
I too am
no.
from Southern California, and where you can wear shorts 365 days a year, and if it's 71, it's cold outside.
Yeah.
So I feel that, and even coming here, it's winter in Georgia, and I'm panicking.
Yeah.
We were talking about that on the way up.
Yeah, uncool, man.
True or false? You are a serious roller skater.
I gotta know this one.
True.
Yes. Okay. How? Why?
So,
I saw this, and I was like, you like legit roller skate, have like some roller
I have
skates.
about 6 pairs of skates.
Oh
yeah,
my gosh.
Yeah. I actually got to get them shipped down here. I haven't been yet. But in the off season, best believe I'll be doing it. So it starts like this. So about, I'll say end of my freshman year at Utah, I remember. So I don't go out. I don't really do. I'm kind of a boring guy. I'm more of a homebody. So, and I watch anime. I do all of the stuff that you wouldn't expect a football player to do, right? Watch anime, watch on TV. But so I was having one of my 2 months where I just do that, and I think it was mid-season too, and we come back, and so we get a few days. I think we might have had a bye or something. And I remember me and Mekhi Bernard, because we lived together at the time. Me and Mekhi Bernard was like, man, what we going to do? He like, CP, I got to get you out of the room, man. Well, we got to do something. And I'm like, man, what? Go to a party or something? No, that's not me. Bro, I'm not talking about. And he was like, bro, let's go just look up something to do. I'm like, what is it to do in Utah? And this is 2 Long Beach dudes talking.
Yeah, right.
Mekhi's from Long Beach too. And I was like, what? And he was like, all right, remember in the city we used to go to? I'm like, yeah, they probably don't have those out here, but they probably close at like 7 because in Utah everything closes earlier.
Yeah.
And I remember after we got done just, kind of ragging them, we ended up looking out. I was like, let's just go skating. So we go. The first time, as soon as I get on the floor, somebody clips me and knock me over.
Oh, God.
And I remember seeing these old dudes, about 65, 70, and seeing them just grooving and dancing.
Right, just
and
into
me and
it.
Mekhi looked at each other about an hour in. I'm sweating. I'm really trying to do it. And I said, I'm going to be the best skater in here.
Yeah.
This is a Classic Fun Center in Utah, and they have about 3 or 4 of them down there. I said, I'm going to go to every single one of them. I'm going to be the best guy. I'm going to be the smoothest.
And everybody is going to be like, look at that guy.
Yeah.
He's got it.
Look at this little short, stocky buff dude on skates actually doing it. And I said it then, and you can ask Mekhi today, like, he was like, dude, you're really committed. Like, I would go down to Orem. I would drive an hour just to go to the skating rink that didn't have anybody there at 2 p.m. just to practice. Just to practice, because I was like, I'm going to learn how to go backwards. I'm going to learn how to be smooth and not fall. I was like, how are they doing? And I remember asking for tips. It was a dude named Clark in there that I used to call Superman, and it's crazy. He was bald, and the dude had a crazy story. I can't get into it. But the dude's like, his name was Clark, and he was like, you seen Clark in there? And it got to the point I was going like every day of the week. I'm going like every day of the week. As soon as I get done watching film, I'm like, where you going? And be like, where you going, Clark? I'm like, you already know, classic.
Sling the skates over the shoulder. Yeah.
He's like, what skates you rolling? I'm like, I got my Vans today. I had the custom pair and everything.
Oh my gosh.
Then I got vanillas when I really thought I was doing it. Them the roll bouncing skates. So I got real serious about it. I'm probably rusty now, but I still got some moves.
I mean, I feel like we could go out there right now.
Oh, right now.
Without it.
I could hit a few spins and stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a whole content idea in here. Just
I mean, I'm already writing
it's waiting
it down.
to happen. Yeah.
I'm already writing it down in my notebook. Off season skating, because I don't know how to skate. So like you
most
it could be like
most
how
def.
to
Yeah.
go down to skate country and
Yeah. Oh yeah.
get
They
thing
have that
set
down
up.
there?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, don't tell me that.
Honestly, I love this.
Okay.
You're gonna teach us for sure.
All right.
Most definitely.
I'm gonna need it. I'm gonna need to learn.
Okay, we still have so many notes. I don't think we've ever done this before. Can we do a Clark Phillips III part 2 at some point?
Yeah, we got
other
to.
stuff.
We got to. I
We
know.
got other
We have a
stuff.
ton
of-
We are
Nah,
out of time. Super unfortunate. Next season, we're gonna run this back
Next
with the
season.
other
Let's
page
do it.
Right.
Let's do
of
it.
stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, please do what you do. This podcast was awesome. If you want more podcasts that are hopefully equally awesome, rate, review, and subscribe to the Atlanta Falcons Podcast Network. Subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can find all these podcasts as well. Do all that fun stuff. Give us a 5-star review. And for Tori and Clark, I'm Scott. This has been a freaking awesome episode of Falcons in Focus presented by Ticketmaster.
We're just gonna skate around.
I don't know how we're going to outdo this.
Yeah,
It's going to be
good.
tough.
Yeah.
Clark set the bar very high.
Right.
Put it
yeah.
on skates, huh?
Yeah, put it on skates. Okay, we will talk to you again next week. See ya.